Welcome to Devotion Podcast, where we explore the intersections of our most sacred work, our most devotional leadership, and our most revolutionary tending. I'm your host, Nisha Moodley. I'm a mother, a community cultivator, and a leadership mentor and facilitator. The conversations here are all about showing up in new ways to weave a new world together. May the words you're about to hear be nourishing for you. Thanks for being here and enjoy. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Devotion Podcast. We're going to do something a little different today. A couple days ago, I went live on Instagram to talk about how we can cultivate deeper resonance with our work, both within ourselves and with other people, and why conventional marketing, first of all, is just kind of shitty. But second of all, why I find it really actually doesn't work for folks who are inviting people into the depths. And that's the nature of their work. The nature of their work is that it exists in the depths. It brings people into the mystery. And, conventional marketing just doesn't cut it. So I talk about that. And I also invite folks into a new offering that I have called Devoted, which is a 6-week journey to unearth and birth your deepest work. I'm really excited about it. You'll hear me talk about it. And I hope you enjoy this riff that I did a couple of days ago that I'm sharing with you here today. Hello. Thank you for being here. All right. I'm super happy to have this conversation. So I'm going to start diving right in. In case you are joining, just a little introduction to me and my work. So I am Nisha. I've been a coach for 15 years. And the coaching that I was trained in, both as a health coach, but then I did a second deeper coach training that is really was a profoundly deep training that I went through. So I've been doing this depth coaching for 15 years. I also first started practicing energy work almost 30 years ago when I was a teenager. And and then my work also weaves together other modalities. I am a trained family constellation facilitator, and I've been diving into ancestral lineage healing work for the last several years and breath work. And that's just some of my credentials. But really, I think if I could speak into the heart of my work, I work with folks whose work influences culture and to cultivate their leadership and also to unearth and birth the deepest work that they are here to bring at this time. So we are here today. I'm here today, maybe you too, to have a conversation about resonance. And to me, resonance as it relates to our work is this desire for us to feel connected to our own work on a deep level, and also to feel that our work is connecting with other people, that it's resonating with other people. And what I see really often in the conventional marketing world is this encouragement for folks to speak what I would consider up and out to people's pain. Literally says speak to their pain points, to speak to the things that they're what are they waking up thinking about? What is the thing that hurts? So to kind of dig in and scratch around at people's pain, at their shame, and then to use a lot of techniques in marketing to trigger scarcity, to trigger fear of missing out, which is also scarcity, and again, to trigger shame. So it's shame, scarcity, shame, scarcity, shame, scarcity. And this is what we've been taught is what works. What works is that if you can get people anxious and activated enough, they're going to feel the intensity of their pain, and then they're going to want to solve that pain because, ouch, it hurts. Now I want to get out of this hurt. So help me solve my pain. And like you can kind of track the logical progression of that, right? Like on some level, it makes sense that that would work. What I want to say is that for folks who do depth work, right, your work is about leading people into the depths. That is not going to work for a few reasons. First of all, because we know by nature of the work that we are doing and by the training that we have done to get here in our work, that actually taking people into shame and scarcity is a really poor strategy for them in the moment, for their nervous systems. It's uncaring, it's unkind, and it might get you what you want in the short term, but it doesn't actually support this person to cultivate a relationship of trust with you and trust within themselves. And it's just like, okay, now I'm creating more of what in the world? Like, so some might say, well, it's a means to an end, right? Sell them what they want, give them what they need, sell them what they want and then take them into the depths. But I'm not really interested in walking into the proverbial grocery store and smashing things all over the floor and then cleaning it up later, right? And so for a lot of us, we're like, I just can't do it. Like a lot of when I'm working with my clients or folks or friends, even having conversations about this, we're like, I don't want to be either unintentionally, but certainly intentionally triggering scarcity and shame in people. And I don't want to be predatory. I'm not trying to manipulate people and prey on their pain or even kind of speak to them as if their shallow desires or like the things that they're wanting from a place of desperation are the solution, like that I have the solution and that actually focusing on that is the thing that serves the most. And I think beyond that, it's just to take that approach to marketing has to assume that folks are shallow, that they're not in touch with their deeper desires, their deeper longings, their deeper care, but actually I feel like what is true when we do work that takes people into the depths is we actually need to connect with people in the depths and trust and believe that folks actually can access and trust their own intuition, right? Access and trust their own vision for a more beautiful world. Um, access and trust their own deep care and sort of speaking into the longings, the care, the vision that live underneath those surface things. And we don't have to go up and out to meet people in the shallows to then swim them down into the depths. Again, I just don't think that it's healthy or helpful a lot of the time. And second of all, I just don't think it works. And you'll know if this is unlikely to work for you, that the shallow strategy, if you have folks come to you and be like, I just had a knowing. I had a knowing, I had a soul pull, I saw a sign, I had this deeper sense. Like if you're hearing those kind of things, even just people coming to you through referrals, those are often indications that like people are connecting to you in the depths and you can trust that. And so for me over the years, right, I said I've been doing coaching work for 15 years, which means I've also been like trying to learn how to sell my work for 15 years. And mostly for the first many years, it was learning a lot of the conventional wisdom that's out there. And then for the last many years, it's been a lot of unlearning and reorienting around cultivating resonance with folks and within myself as a way of creating connection and sharing about my work and inviting people into my work. So, in order to speak to folks in the depths, right, in order to speak into their vision, their longings, their deeper care, right, the deeper desires that are existing underneath whatever might be happening in the shallows for them, um, we actually have to connect deeply to ourselves, to our own vision, to the soul of our work. And I want to say something about that in a moment. And then to our people, right? To the people that we're speaking to. So when I say connecting with the soul of our work, I hear a lot of people talk about like connecting to the spirit or the soul of your work. And I'm so glad that this idea is making its way into the fore. And I want to first deeply credit my longtime teacher and mentor, Hiro Boga, Hiroboga, Hiro Boga. Hiro is an amazing elder teacher and a dearly beloved teacher of mine. And it was Hiro who first introduced me to this idea that my work might have a soul. So if you're like rolling your eyes right now or wondering what the hell I'm talking about, let me break it down. So I live in the West. I live in North America. And I find that this is like a predominantly, like the overculture is pretty anti animist, right? If we don't see it, it doesn't exist. And what's real is what we can measure as humans. And so there's a lack of acknowledgement that there are unseen forces at play. And there are a few places, though, that animism sort of pops its way into our dominant culture. And one of those ways is we will say that, and then we'll also talk about the muse, right? So, what is the muse when people talk about the muse, right? I guess how I would describe what people are talking about when they're talking about the muse is like, okay, there's a force, there's an energy, a creative force outside of us that comes and invites us into co-creation, right? So people talk about the muse arriving, the muse appearing, the muse coming to them, and this dance that we get to engage in. I can't see the muse with my two eyes, right? Maybe some of you can, but I cannot. That is not a skill that I have. I can't see the muse with my two eyes. Probably most of us can't see the muse with our two eyes. And yet there is this sort of like cultural sense that the muse is a real thing, even though we cannot see the muse. So to me, the muse is the soul of our work. It's the soul of our creations. It's the soul of what wants to come and co-create with us and build something that doesn't currently exist out of our imagination, but also out of the relational field with this co-creative energy. And that's the thing I want to say. Let me say that again. We think it might be coming out of our imagination. Sure. The thing that you're about to make, the thing that you're about to build, the thing that you're working on, your art, your offering, it might be in part coming from your imagination, but I would assert that it's also coming from the co-creative relationship with this creative life force energy that we call the muse, that I'll call the soul of your offering or the soul of your project or creation. And some people talk about this with children too, like feeling their spirits around or having visions of them before they arrive. I think these are all expressions or experiences of animist ways of relating that, again, aren't totally accepted or part of our common conversation or understanding inside of dominant culture, but all over the world in cultures, folks have traditionally, indigenously, and still do talk about spirit and soul. So, again, if we are wanting to cultivate resonance for ourselves with our work and for others with our work, so that when we're sharing about our work, people feel a connection and they feel invited in a way that feels good for them and also feels good for you and also clicks, like there's a sense of like, oh, yeah, this is for me, or no, this is not for me, right? Clarity, great. In order to have that, that requires that we go into the depths and that we connect on deeper levels with ourselves, with our own vision, not just for our lives and for our work, but for our world, that we connect with the people and also with the soul of our work. And how can we tell if we're relating deeply or shallowly? I mean, I think I just want to start by saying we're all probably sometimes relating in the depths and sometimes relating in the shallows to ourselves, to others, and to our work for sure. But just speaking about our relationship with our work. So, some of the indications that we are relating somewhat shallowly to our work and that we could go deeper, right, in that relationship. One, that we're relating to it almost like we're gambling and it's like a slot machine. Okay, I'm going to put something in and I'm going to get something back. I'm going to put something in, I'm going to get something back. And there's an expectation that if we do the right things in the right order at the right time, that we're going to get the results that we want. And it's not to say that some element of that is true, right? There are some truths in that. But I like to think of it less like a gambler and more like a gardener. As a gardener, I'm no master gardener. My mother is, though she's amazing. But as a newbie gardener, what I have found to be true is like I can plan for all the correct and right things and all of the things that I think I'm supposed to do. And then a deer will walk into my yard and eat half of my crop, or it'll rain extra hard this year, or I will have missed something inadvertently, or who knows, some other crop will take over. Like, this is life. And so if I'm relating shallowly, I'm thinking that it's just like input, output, and it's this sort of binary, very manageable thing that I can expect results from because I did the correct things. Another indication that we're relating somewhat shallowly and could go deeper in our relationship with our work is frustration. Frustration and resentment. So feeling frustrated with the people or resentful of the people that we are inviting in, feeling resentful that they are, whatever the stories are that we have, that they don't value us, that they don't value our work, that they this, that, or the other. Whenever I hear resentment coming into the field with someone, I'm like, okay, we need to go deeper in your relationship with your work. Just like if somebody was expressing resentment around a partner in partnership or a working relationship or any other human relationship, we'd be like, okay, this relationship needs some work, right? This relationship needs some deepening, some more connection. It's the same with our work. If we're getting into resentment and we're really frustrated, those are great indications that we are being invited deeper into relationship with our work. Let me think of what else is going on. Feeling like there's just like a lack of connection. There's a I can't quite see it. I can't quite feel it. Like, I want my work to be different than what it is, but I can't put my finger on it. Or I'm saying things, but they're not clicking for me. Or I read the things that I write, or I listen to the things that I say, and I'm kind of cringing and it's not feeling connective to me. Again, these are all indications that we're being invited, or there's I'm inviting you, but there's a possibility that we could go deeper in our relationship with our work. What have I said so far? Relating like you're a gambler and it's a slot machine, that you can kind of put energy in and get energy out, and it's that easy. Resentment, frustration, just an overall feeling of disconnection from the work. And or a disconnection from in the way that you're expressing it. So sometimes what I find is folks are like, I love doing my work. I hate talking about my work. I love, this part, and I hate marketing. And to me, I have like a deep compassion and understanding for that, because like we're not going to be good at everything all the time. That's totally understandable. And perhaps in like an old world village context, things would be very different and we wouldn't need marketing. But I think there's an opportunity to shift the relationship with our work and deepen it so that we can also relate to marketing differently, that it's an invitation. And then how do we invite people in to our work? So those are just a few. I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm not thinking of right now, but indications that there's an opportunity to go deeper in our relationship with our work. And when we go deeper into the relationship with our work, a couple of things happen. One, our work gets deeper. Like the actual work that we are doing with other people gets deeper. And two, we're able to cultivate deeper resonance. So we feel deeper connection with our work. So we're able to extend that connection out to others. I don't know if you've ever had this before. I certainly have, where I'm inviting people into an offering or a program. And my experience of that offering or program is that I feel disconnected and unrelated to it. Like I don't feel deeply connected to, excited about, related to that work. Guess what happens? It falls flat. Right. And so, again, deeper relationship means the work goes deeper, but also the resonance is more true. And yeah, for most people, when we say deeper relationship with your work, because somehow we tend to relate to our work differently than we relate to our other human relationships, right? This again comes back to our like human supremacist, anti-animist culture that we live in. That if we talk about relationships with people, we tend to think very differently than if we're talking about relationships with animals, if we're talking about relationships with our other non-human creations. And so when we think about relationship with our work, when I say that, often people think what people start to think about or reflect back to me is that deeper relationship for them means that their work becomes more manageable, they're better at managing it, or they have more definition around it, they feel more clarity, they have a greater sense of control. So, this idea that a deeper relationship with my work means I will feel more in control. And here's what I want to say. Our work exists as part of the tapestry of all of life. As again, my mentor hero Boga would say, it's an ecology nested within other ecologies, right? And we live, and our work lives inside of nested ecologies. And so the nature of life is not that I get to control it. And the more I figure out, the more I control the variables, and the more I always get what I want. The nature of life is that we live inside of a mystery, and my work is to show up and tend what is mine to tend and to relate deeply with what I am here to relate with. And then a lot of it is surrendering into the mystery, right? And our work is not different. Our work is not different. And so to me, when I talk about deepening, or for me, when I'm talking about deepening our relationship with our work, what I'm talking about, if you think of it like a beloved, if I said deepening a relationship with a beloved, how would you think about that? So deepening a relationship with a beloved might look like listening to them. It might look like spending time and communing with them, not just in the chatter, you know, not just like if I wanted to deepen my relationship with my partner and co-parent, it's like talking about logistics is not like, yeah, that might help. Strategizing logistics might help, but like actually making eye contact, co-regulating, breathing together, having difficult conversations about things that matter, right? Like communing. And so, how else might we cultivate a relationship with a beloved? Well, we might offer our energy, our time, our space to the relationship. So, spending time, giving our energy to connection, going again back into the deeper listening in that relationship. So, again, thinking of our relationship with our work a little bit more like we think about a relationship with a beloved, or like we think about gardening, a relationship of tending, or a relationship with our children. Our work is not our child. Our work is not our partner. Our work is not, probably not our God. And it doesn't mean that it's an insignificant relationship that isn't worthy of or needing depth of connection. So I'm curious if folks have questions about this, actually, because I could keep talking and talking and talking, but I think I've kind of said like most of the things. Um, and I also, I'm curious about questions. So just chat at me here. Chat at me here. Yeah. So, Genevieve, I love what you said. You're making me realize I haven't communicated with the soul of my creative force that we call a business in literally years. Yeah. Like there's such an opportunity there to connect into that relationship. And I can talk a little bit about how you can do that. For me, connecting through meditation with the soul of my work, like connecting on a soul level, creating an altar as an offering to the soul of my work. I've seen people create altars that have like a kind of, there's a give me energy. Like, I want money. So I'm going to this is my altar so that I can get money. And I'm like, okay, but what are you giving? What are you offering? What are you offering? It's like if I created an altar to honor the soul of my child and I just put um, I don't know, a fake diploma for medical school on it. And my child is 6 years old, right? And like all of these things that I wanted them to achieve versus, oh, how do I honor the tapestry of your soul as I experience it? How do I honor the energetic imprint that you leave on my heart, being just who you are? This is such a different orientation. Again, it's like not what I can get from you, but how I can be with you, how I can tend you. So, yeah, dancing, someone is saying. So someone asks, like, this thing that I said about frustration. So, again, what I was saying earlier is one of the indications that we could go deeper in our relationship with our work is feeling frustration or what was the other term that I used or the other feeling that I used? Frustration, resentment is one that really can show up. So, why does that matter when someone is feeling frustrated? In the same way that it matters if I'm feeling chronically frustrated with my child or chronically frustrated with my partner, that managing them more is probably not the answer. And staying in frustration, in that rigid, contracted state of frustration and in persistent frustration, is also probably not the answer. If I'm frustrated also or resentful, how I communicate, the energy that I bring to my communication is very different. If I want to invite my child to come and get ready and we're going to go into the car and I'm frustrated, I'm much more likely to be dominating, to be controlling, to be super edgy. By the way, I do this. I'm not saying I am above this. But right, we're always learning. We're always learning. There's every day more opportunities to deepen. But it's very different if I'm working with that frustration by going into deeper connection and deeper relationship. And so that's why it matters. There's an invitation to go deeper into relationship with our work when we're feeling frustrated in our work. How do I infuse these ideas into marketing practices? Okay. So coming back to resonance, how I create resonance is by first creating connection within myself. If I'm not connected with myself and I'm not connected with my work, on a deep soul level, then there's no way I can connect with you. There's no way that I can congruently, clearly, and in a energetically resonant way, and just even verbally resonant way with my words, connect with you and invite you into the depths when I'm not connected to the depths of myself or my work. So I'm going to kind of talk about like that, going into that deeper connection, because that's really the work that I want to invite folks into. That's the work. Because from that place, it's amazing what happens, right? It's like we could be frustrated with a beloved, and then we go into a space of connection with ourselves. And then we invite ourselves into invite them into a deeper connection. And often miraculous shit happens where we might have been really disconnected and really contracted and in a bad place. And all of a sudden, like, wow, it feels like there's a big shift that's happening. And so what I see for folks is going deeper into their relationship with themselves and their work. It sort of transforms the way that they're marketing from the inside out. It shifts the tone of their voice. It shifts the depth of their invitation. I read their emails and I'm more interested. I'm more drawn in. And it's not because they used like some gimmicky marketing techniques. It's because their voice had bass, energetically speaking. Right? They weren't speaking from up here. They weren't speaking from here. They were speaking from down here. Maybe you can't see where I'm gesturing to, but like deep in the belly. They were speaking from that deeper place. And I felt it, right? And so I feel drawn in and I feel compelled. And when I'm working one-on-one or in my mastermind with clients, I do copy with them all the time. I'll sit in a session and we'll copywrite. We'll write an entire, sales page or invitation page together. And I really love doing that work. But I'm not doing that with them from the place of, what are people wanting and let's survey. I don't have a problem with that. It's not bad or wrong. I'm not saying that those things need to be thrown out. Where I'm doing it from is I'm connected to myself. I'm connected to them as a being. I see them, right? Like I see them. I know their heart. I feel the depth of their work, even if I'm not their student. I can feel it. I have a sense for their people. And then we're just speaking into that field together. So I know that might sound intangible, but it's this sense that like when we're moving deeper, there's a deeper resonance, there's a deeper base. Everything that gets expressed differently. Okay, I'm going to keep going because there's so many things that folks are writing. Okay. I noticed that as my business grew into more success, I started getting caught up in a story that I needed to make it more of a real business rather than being in relationship with it and being in it. Yes. Yes. And being in the mystery, rather than being in relationship with it and being in the mystery, which is literally the work that I do. So I've been fighting off more of this conditioning from the business world. Yes. Yeah. Like if we're inviting people into the mystery and then leaping up and out to be like, I can solve all of your problems. You want this thing and I've got the solution. Right? There's something for us that often feels like this feels really incongruent, And I had a client that I was speaking with yesterday and she was like, I feel this aversion to marketing because I don't know that I can promise anyone anything. And I'm like, except for that you'll be there, you really can't. Right? Isn't that the truth? But we can invite people into these spaces of depth. There's a way to do it that doesn't have to feel slimy and shady and disconnected and incongruent. And I'm not a marketing coach and I'm not a marketing teacher, but what I am is a guide for people to come into deep relationship with their work, because I know that when you come, there's lots of marketing teachers and there's lots of copywriting guides, and those things can be great skills. But what I'm interested in is relationship. People coming into deep relationship with their calling and with their work, because if I'm being honest, the big reason why for me is I look to the future of our world and I know that in order to create the beautiful world that so many of us are envisioning beyond all reasonable doubt, right? That like we can pull something beautiful forward in the future for our children and our children's children, right? This is what I'm in it for. I do my work for my kids and their kids and your kids and their kids and their kids and the future of this beautiful planet that we are on. And in order to get to that vision, it's going to take all of our hearts and hands and all of our bringing forward of our unique gifts and our unique medicine and our unique way. And it breaks my heart that so many folks who are on the front lines doing the work of taking people into the depths, healing work, repair work, care work, tending work, are getting pulled up and out by this marketing, these marketing ideals that like disconnect us up out of the work and have people ending up working more shallowly or inviting people into the shallows or not being seen amidst all of the cacophony of what's going on. And I think instead of like fighting to be seen by making more noise or spinning plates better, we can actually just speak with a deeper, clearer voice because there's fewer people speaking from our bellies. There's fewer people speaking from the depths of our care. And there's a resonance actually to speaking from that basiness and from that depth that people can feel. And like, I might not beat the algorithm or have the most followers, and neither might you beat the algorithm or have the most followers. But there's a magnetic resonance when people are speaking from the depths. So, this is the moment where I want to invite you into an offering that I have coming up because we got to practice going into this deep relationship with our work. And so there's a course that I've created. It's called Devoted. If you're interested, you can check it out. It's on my website, nishamoodley.com/devoted. I wish I had that typed out, but I do not. So my name, nishamoodley.com/devoted. And Devoted is really for folks who are at somewhat of a crossroads where there's the work that you have been doing and the way of doing your work, the way of sharing your work, and you have outgrown it or it never quite fully felt right. And so here you are. And then there's the thing that's pulling you, a way of expressing your work, a depth inside of the work itself. Like there's an emerging depth that wants to work its way through you, through your work, through the way that you are speaking about and expressing your work in the world. And you cannot go back, right? You cannot put the genie back in the bottle and go back to the old way. Oh, Heather, thank you so much for popping that link in there. Really appreciate that. You have to instead sit where you are in this messy middle moment in this crossroads and choose to go towards the depths. And so this offering is 6 weeks long. And it's all about going into this deep relationship with your work. And we practice together, right? So we cultivate this more animist relationship with the soul of our work, right? We connect with it on a soul level. We cultivate this deep listening, this deeper trust with our work, and this deeper devotion to our work, not the kind of devotion that is like drudgery and duty, but devotion that is like I show up and I tend the seeds, and also I have this sort of buoyancy in my field, in my energy to know that like I'm also living into the mystery, like the peace that we can have in our hearts from like both showing up for the work, doing the work, chop wood, carry water, and also surrender, you know, allow life to move, allow ourselves to be in the mystery, keep going. So we can cultivate that relationship of deep care, deep peace, and deep connection with our work. And again, come into relating to our work more like a garden and ourselves as the gardener, and less like a slot machine and we're the gambler. Where if I just do it right and do it enough times, pick the lucky numbers, everything's going to line up and give me what I want. But instead, my work is to show up and to tend and to go into deep relationship. And so, what else do I want to say about Devoted? This is the first time in a long time that I'm doing an offering where I'm really inviting folks into the emergent field of relationship with your work specifically, and with yourself as a creator specifically, and seeing what wants to be unearthed and birthed through you as you go deeper into relationship with yourself and your work. So I want to see if anybody has questions about anything that I've shared so far on this live, or about the offering, but certainly just about anything that I've shared. I'm so, so happy to have this conversation with you. So, yeah, somebody shared really tenderly. I just did a live on imposter syndrome, and I'm feeling yucky because I wasn't able to speak from my belly because I had a heavy convo with my love right before. I could have done better, and it's okay. Oh my gosh, yes. Right? Like, we're going to be imperfect. You know, I missed the window for planting a lot of my winter crops this year. It's okay. You know, life moves on. Yeah, it's this cultivating a deeper relationship with our work does not get us closer to doing it perfectly. It gets us closer to trust. It gets us closer to relating in a deep way. It gets us closer to resonance within ourselves and with others. It gets us closer to like deep creative flow and feeling the delightful, delicious feeling of being used up by life, you know? And like our work is a profound creative expression for us, you know, like not just a place where we get to use our skills and talents. Yeah, that can be deeply fulfilling, but also a place where like a channel for our creative fire, which just feels so good. All right, what else? What else? What other questions, queries, musings do you have just sitting with this invitation into deep relationship with your work? What are you learning? What are you unlearning? What are you curious about? Yeah, Renee, hi. Yeah, it gets us closer to trust. Exactly. Takes us into deeper trust. If I could impart one thing on this fine day to you, it would be, if you do work that invites people into the depths, relate to your work like you would relate to more like you would relate to a beloved. How would you cultivate a relationship with a beloved? That shifts everything. And yeah, my dear friend is asking, I'm super curious about opening up a new chapter and having no idea what it looks like. That totally reminds me of just that liminal space of, I know I speak to a lot of new mothers, and often that happens with their work in that moment of becoming, unbecoming and becoming, that there's something new opening up and we don't know what it looks like and we're feeling drawn in. I think it's such a beautiful place to go into relating on a soul level, to go into that deeper listening with the muse, right? With the soul of what wants to be birthed through us next, to explore and to be in that exploratory space. You know, so much of what I've done in my own life is trying to get clear about what wants to be birthed through me by going up into my mind and into strategy. And I can get this sort of sugar high feeling of clarity that is mental, a distinct quality of mental clarity. I'm like, oh, I can see it. Oh, it makes sense. Right. And it kind of like, I making sense mentally to me is like a sugar high. It's good. It feels good for a moment, but then often sleep on it and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, yeah, it made sense. logically, but it doesn't have the bassy resonance of this thing wants to be birthed. That, for example, people will be like, I'm not ready. It's not time to have a child. I'm not organized. We haven't set up all of our 401ks yet. And then sometimes the baby comes and the timing seems not quite perfect, but somehow you know that it is the right timing. And sometimes things want to be created through us that actually terrify us. I have to say that even this offering, I'm inviting you all into an offering. And in this moment, I will reveal that even last night I was like, what am I doing? Am I ready? So much of this feels like channeled material, but part of that is the wobble isn't a deep wobble. It's the wobble of underneath that terror, surface level terror, is this deeper knowing that this is actually a culmination of 30 years for me of energy work, of my coaching work, of my ancestral lineage healing and reclamation work that I've done personally and also that I've done in practice. It's the culmination of so much of my work. And when our deepest work to date, or our next newest, deepest work wants to come through, there can be a lot of forces at play that want to keep that subverted and suppressed, both out in the world and also in ourselves, right? It can be terrifying to unearth and birth our deepest work. And we can ask ourselves some pretty significant questions about how is this going to reorganize my life? Who am I going to be on the other side of this? If I bring this thing that I actually deeply care about and love into the world and nobody wants it, then what? What does that mean about me? And yet, what else are we going to do? Bring out stuff that we don't really care about or that, feels inconsequential, or at the end of our life, we're like, meh, yeah, I did that thing, but it doesn't feel like, yeah, I did that thing. And that's what I want for myself. And that's what I want for all of us, is to have, when we have the privilege to do so, to have the experience of I did that thing. I birthed that thing out into the world. I brought that offering, those creations out into the world that terrified me, but that were mine and only mine to bring and to create. Somebody is asking, I've struggled to find my true voice and wanting to do too many things since I'm multi-passionate. I will also raise my hand. Karen, you and me both. It sounds like Devoted could help me streamline that. Yeah, going into this space of deep listening. And then part of this Devoted journey, we go through sort of 3 phases together. One is remembering, one is unearthing, and then the final is birthing. And in that birthing phase, the last 2 weeks of our 6-week journey, we come into deeper clarity and focus about what the emerging offering or offerings are that are coming through at this time. And that's a deep consideration. I'm a mom with 2 little kids, and I know sometimes a creation wants to come through, and I'm like, it's not time. That's a next year thing or a 2 years down the road thing, and how do we do them? How do we bring them out in a way that actually works for these bodies, for our families, for our energy, for what we actually have to give at this time? And so part of that process and part of that aspect of our exploration and our journey together in Devoted is looking at what wants to come through this time and honoring that deeply, while also honoring what wants to come through and how can it come through and when can it come through in a way that deeply works for us as the creator. That I, as a soul, might want to be birthed through me, a child soul or a project soul, a book or whatever, an offering, but I also get to choose if I want, if I'm ready, if I'm a yes. And so we also get to be in that discernment process and that clarity process about what's next. What is the right thing that wants to come through next? Yeah, really in somebody's sharing and really in that liminal space, and things that coming through that may want to be birthed feel different than what I used to want for my life. So it's scary. Yeah. someone else, bringing through a bunch of new things that are terrifying. I really want to normalize this feeling. I don't think we talk enough about how terrifying it can be to bring forward things that feel that we love dearly and deeply. Having a child is amazing and can be also terrifying because you're like, if anything ever happens to this being, I don't know that I'll be okay. And all of our stuff from all of our childhoods and our whole lives like comes rushing in and it's all up in our business. I'm 6 years into parenting, so I don't know, at least for 6 years, maybe forever. There's like constant material to work with. And with our work, it's different, but also similar in that bringing forward the stuff that's like really coming forward, that's like soul level calling to bring forward into the world can be terrifying. Because if I share again this thing that is like so deeply in me to give, that is coming through, that doesn't make all the logical, rational sense, that is maybe different or a departure from what I'm used to be doing, and then people don't like it, or and then I change my mind, or what happens if, it can be so terrifying. So I so want to normalize this. I so want to normalize this because I think that in a death-phobic culture, we want to get away from these feelings of terror rather than be with them and sit with them. And one of the ways that we try to get away from our feelings of terror is by not talking about them. Like let's just not talk about how terrified we are and pretend that we're confident and super clear or confused. Confusion is another way to shield our terror. So if you are here and you feel like there's a depth of your work that is emerging and coming through, and there's some terror in this, like, how can I hold this? Am I ready? Am I the one? Will they want it? Will they like it? Can I do it? What happens if, I'll be leaving people behind? It's all of the things. What I want to say is actually staying tender with that terror is so good because we don't have to fake confusion. And sometimes it's sneaky. Confusion can be a way of just like protecting us from feeling that terror, to be like, I don't know actually if rather than like, oh, I deeply know actually that this thing or something like this thing is next. And I'm scared. And I don't know what to do with that. So it's like parsing out the confusion, but also pretending to be confident and clear is not meaningful either. So yeah, I'm so grateful. I know that some folks are like asking me to share a little bit more about some of the things that I've already spoken to. So I'll make sure to save this so that if you missed some of the pieces about conventional marketing, you can kind of go back and watch this later, so that I'm not repeating myself for everyone who's been here for a while. But yeah, I the the last thing that I'll say is I really trust you. Like, I trust folks to know if something feels right for them, to inquire if they feel unsure. And so, if you're interested in exploring Devoted, again, it's nishamoodley.com/devoted. Check it out. If you have questions, ask them. If you feel drawn, great. If you don't, cool. I trust you. And again, if I could offer um, one nugget, one morsel from this time together, it would be when you invite people into the depths, and that's your work, then you need to be deeply related to and connected with your work on a soul level, which means connecting to yourself as a creator on a soul level, connecting with your work on a soul level. And from that connection, that's where you speak from. That's where you invite from. And it changes your marketing from the inside out. and relate to your work a little bit more like you would relate to a beloved, a little bit more like you would relate to a garden that you were tending, where any gardener knows rabbits and deer you can't control, birds you can't control. You can try, but nature's gonna nature. So thank you all for being here. It's been super sweet to share with you and connect with you. And I have so much more to say, but these are some of my words for today. And I hope it's been valuable and helpful. And I'm wishing all the rest of you a beautiful day.
As a wave across the land, we are moving, moving. This ain't no phase, the change these bodies make and the way they are facing forward, shoulder to the stone, telling of moving. It takes one step, it takes your voice, it takes your voice saying, I am not hearing if you are not naming it. I am not stopping if you are not changing it. Here are my hands, let's see what they're making. In the morning, in the rise up, there's a bridge from all that's been in the dawning. The vines are pushing through the pavement. We were born of burning hearts. We are tearing off the reins. From the ground up we will build it. From the clouds above we'll rain it. From the crowd up we will raise it. From the ground up. You hold the spade to turn new soil for the coming grace. You hold the plans. No hands but our hands will lead our children. All that will feed you is a fierce prayer, is a fierce prayer, saying, I am not hearing if you are not naming it. I am not stopping if you are not changing it. Here are my hands, let's see what they're making. In the morning, in the rise up, there's a bridge from all that's been in the dawning. The vines are pushing through the pavement. We were born of burning hearts. We are tearing off the reins. From the ground up we will build it. From the clouds above we'll rain it. From the crowd up we will raise it. From the ground up. In this life we see so many things, and sometimes our heart may start to bleed a bit. But I choose this life I'm gonna lead, and I must give my hands to make it. In the morning, in the rise up, there's a bridge from all that's been in the dawning. The vines are pushing through the pavement. We were born of burning hearts. We are tearing off the reins. From the ground up we will build it. From the clouds above we'll rain it. From the crowd up we will raise it. From the ground up we will build it. We were clouds of burning rain. From the ground up we will build it. From the clouds above we'll rain it. We were born of burning rain. From the clouds above we'll rain it. From the crowd up we will raise it. From the ground up we will build it. From the clouds above we'll rain it. From the crowd